This is the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, welcome to Geek Smack episode number 266. I took a week off, and this is episode 266, because last week I had no idea what episode number I was on. We're on episode 266. My name is Jeffrey Powers. I do know that for a complete fact, and we've got a great show for you. Last week, WWDC, we got to see the new computers coming out and the new version of OS 10 Mavericks, and then, of course, iOS7. And there were a lot of people that are saying, wow, that looks a lot like Android. And, of course, so we're going to talk about that, the differences and the similarities, and we're going to talk, is Apple actually copying Android, or are they on the right track there? Today, we're brought to you by our friends over at Citrix and GoToMeeting. Of course, Day in Tech History, Roku, and of course, all the switching. How we do this is through Wirecast on YouTube live over at youtube.com/Geekazine. Let's get into your Geek Smack for this week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, Geek Smack episode number 266. My name is Jeffrey Powers. If this is the first time that you've come to the show, thank you very much for checking this out. We do this every single Tuesday for Wednesday consumption, and we have a lot of fun. We got a lot of tech news here, got a lot of geek news in here. I suppose maybe not as much geek news this week, but lots of tech news. I took a week off last week because I was supposed to be flying out somewhere else. Didn't happen, so I decided to reroute everything and just kind of do a smaller schedule. Still did the Day in Tech History, have to do that show. And of course, we did This Week in Google Glass last week and this week, so check it out there. iPad 365 got started back up again, took a small little time off of there. So I do all the iOS 7 information. So I'm not going to talk about that too much on Geek Smack, but of course, we're talking about the main subject, is iOS 7 copying Android with their iOS. So we got a lot of stuff. We're going to, as I said, I'm going to skip all the beginning stuff, because if you go over to youtube.com/Geekazine to the live show, you'll actually see part one there. So let's get into your tech smack for this week. And of course, Tech Smack is brought to you by our friends over at Citrix and GoToMeeting, where meeting is believing. Summer is almost here. It's actually this Friday. The weather's great. The kids are out of school. So many places that you'd rather be, but the office. Don't want to be at the office. I know I don't want to be at the office, but my home is my office, so I'm always here. But I go out to coffee shops. I go out other places, kind of enjoy the sun, get that melanin or melatonin getting in my skin and stuff like that, so I can be nice and relaxed and meet with people and get business done. Even though all of that, you still have to meet with people. There's no way around it. Business does not stop by any means. Well, good news, you can escape the office and still stay connected with your coworkers, with your clients. You can share your ideas, you can problem solve, and you get projects done with a little program called GoToMeeting with HD Faces. It's the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate online. With GoToMeeting by Citrix, it just takes a click to start your screen and work in documents in real time. Turn on your webcam, and all of a sudden, you've got an HD video conference from your Mac, from your PC. You can even participate on a smartphone or a tablet, but you can also present from your iPad, which is great, because I don't have to take my laptop everywhere. If I go to the coffee shop, I just take my iPad. If I need to start a meeting, plug in my headphones and start the meeting and pass it off to other people. And it works really, really well, even in certain cafes where the Wi-Fi is not that great sometimes. So check it out. I've used this for over 5 years. I've seen how well it does, and I've done so much business with it. Once you do that 30-day free trial, you're going to make enough money to actually take care of the year price. So check it out. Try GoToMeeting free for 30 days for this special offer. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click that Try It Free Now button, and enter in the promo code podcast. Remember to use the promo code podcast for free 30 days. 30 days for free to try it out and do what you need to do and make lots of money with it. So check it out over at GoToMeeting, where meeting is believing. All right, let's get into your Geek Smack for this week. We're going to start off. WWDC did happen last week. I'm going to glaze over it really quick because, like I said, on the pre-show part of Geek Smack, I talked about everything that we expect with WWDC rundown, including Mavericks came out. We talked about Mavericks and the new OS. Of course, this is all in development right now, which is why WWDC happened, so the developers can get that stuff in their hands so they can make their apps work with the new operating system. New Mac Pro that a lot of people are new design for a desktop model, which is just super small. It's probably no bigger. I wonder how big it is compared to a Mac Mini, because it can't be that much bigger. And if it's got the power with the 6 Thunderbolt ports in it, I could see myself purchasing that and using that for live events over everything else. And of course, iOS7 making the big change to their flat yet not so flat interface. I like that. I love saying it that way because they made this big initiative that we're going to make everything flat. But then they talked about it. It's like, and the icons were flat, but then there was like this 3D effect in the background, and that was pretty impressive. So, and of course, all the improvements, the new MacBook Air and everything else. Like I said, if you want to check everything out, first of all, iPad 365 on Monday, I did a full rundown of iOS 7, so you can check that out there. Check out the pre-show for all the other information, and we'll go from there. All right, from that area, let's bring that down. Let's bring that down. We don't need that anymore. Microsoft, we're over at TheVerge.com. Microsoft is offering Surface RT for schools for as little as $199. Now, I don't think it's not like you have a school card or something like that. You can get an RT. I think this is for schools that buy in bulk. If a classroom size, I need 30 Surface RTs. And they're bringing the price down to $199. And this is for a 32 gigabyte model. And now you got to remember, with a 32 gigabyte model, you're not technically getting 32 gigabytes because almost half of that is the operating system itself. So you get about 16 gigabytes when it's all said and done. They're going to give everybody a touch cover, and the RT, like I said, is going to be down to $200 to $250. I think it's $199 for the Surface, and then $249 with the cover, the keyboard cover, and then of course everybody else still has to pay $599 for the RT model. That's with the ARM processor. So if you want to read more on that, go over to TheVerge.com. All right, let's go from there. Let's bring up a couple more here. We're going over to TechCrunch.com. Instagram is getting video on June 20th. Of course, they're seeing the success of Vine, and they said, "Hey, we want to do the same thing." And really, my question to you is this: do you still use Instagram for your pictures now that Facebook's kind of incorporated in there, and Google's Photos now has something very similar, and you got all these other third-party apps? Do you still use Instagram to take pictures and send them through to Twitter and to Facebook? Let me know. Twitter me at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com, or the hotline is 608-205-4378. But this is interesting. I think Instagram's really feeling the strain of what's, like I said, they don't have anything proprietary. It's not like these filters, if somebody else uses a similar filter, they can't sue anybody. So everybody's going, well, if everybody loves the Instagram idea, we'll just put it into our app because it's a camera app anyway. So I don't know. I think Instagram is getting ready to be on its way out. But I might be wrong. Like I said, let me know if you use Instagram still. Let me know by twittering me at Geekazine. But this article's over at TechCrunch.com. Let's move over to paidcontent.org. I'm not exactly sure. This is a regular site, so there's no paywall or anything. Apple ebook trial is entered in last week, And there, of course, Steve Jobs paperback is going to be coming out very, very soon. So if you don't have the Steve Jobs book, I have it somewhere around the house, which I should probably read again because I only read like 10% of it because I hate to read. I'll tell you that right now. Print just doesn't. I can't put pictures in my head, so print just becomes this bunch of jumbled words for me. And it was really funny because when I was in first grade, I had the reading attention and the reading score of a fifth grader. But then when I was in fifth grade, I had a reading score of a first grader. Maybe it's just a learned thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just something I don't know. I just don't read that much. I tried to read Steve Jobs' book, but I don't know. Maybe with the e-reader that'll change things. Maybe with the paperback. I don't know. But anyway, new paperback, new e-reader coming out for the Steve Jobs book. So if you want to check that out, go over to paidcontent.org. All right. We're going to take a couple seconds on here. Of course, Edward Snowden, the guy that leaked all that information and then flew off to China and said, "Oh, I can't come back to the United States, get in trouble." It's like, I don't know. My personal opinion is, if you're going to do it, be bold and come back to the United States and say, "Okay, here it is. If you want to arrest me, arrest me. Let's go through the trials, but there's something here that the people need to see." By hiding in China, I don't know. And of course, I don't know the whole thing. I hear what you hear, and which is only 30% of the actual content. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see how this all pans out, and if Edward Snowden can come back to the United States. But in the meantime, theguardian.co.uk did a live chat interview, and hopefully this will answer a lot of the questions. If you haven't seen this, check this out. Like I said, it's over at theguardian.co.uk. Moving on from there, we're going over to Ars Technica. Texas has become the first state. Yeehaw! But anyway, the first state to require or ask for email snooping. They can snoop your email. Not totally. It's not like this. "Oh, I want to take a look at your email. There you go. I'm looking at your email." No. They have to have a warrant, and in that they can snoop any type of email. And when the email client is in Texas, then there's nothing you can do about it. It's just going to happen. But if the email client is, let's say, in Kansas or New York or something like that, will that warrant still be valid to be able to look at somebody's email? Things to think about. But if you want to read more on this, go over to arstechnica.com. Moving on from there, we're going over to, I believe, we're going over to Geekazine. There we go. Things are slow here in the Podcast Central at the Geek Studio. There we go. Time Warner, speaking of slow, Time Warner has said, no, we don't throttle YouTube. It's all about peering. At least that's what they're saying over on Giga. They said that they don't throttle down YouTube videos. A lot of people have been complaining about YouTube videos starting to stutter and stuff like that. I'm on Charter, and I don't think I've ever had too many instances. I've had instances where YouTube buffers, but not too many. And if people are getting it on almost every single video, then you got to kind of wonder that. In fact, some people, they found certain IP addresses that they ended up going into their IP, their hosts area, and blocking. So basically what you do is you block an IP address through a specific text file and in Windows, and there's a way to do it in Mac as well. And then when you reboot the computer or you flush out your DNS, it then blocks those IP addresses if they ever try to come talk to the computer. And when that happens and they've blocked those IP addresses, all of a sudden, YouTube starts to work perfectly. Now, it could be a glitch at Time Warner. We're not going to discount that. And it could be some sort of snooping thing. I don't know. But it's pretty interesting to see. If you want to read more on this, it's over at gigaom.com. Moving from there, we're going over to CNET. Sprint has expanded their LTE footprint. They got 22 new markets. Wisconsin here. Last time I checked, Madison, Wisconsin did not have a market for LTE, but maybe they put it in and I just didn't know because I'm not on Sprint. But although my Android phone was on Sprint when I had tested the LG Optimus G, which I still have, but I don't have Sprint carrier on it right now. Fond du Lac, Wisconsin is the one from Wisconsin that's getting LTE. Others, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We've got Gainesville, Florida, Kingsport, Tennessee, Miami, Napa, California, Raleigh, North Carolina, Tampa, Florida, and Warsaw, Indiana. Not India, but Indiana. So we've got definitely some cool stuff for all of you waiting for LTE, faster stuff going on. Speaking of which, I'm on AT&T myself, and what's interesting is yesterday I woke up and of course, first thing you do, you look at the phone, and it's like, okay, and it said your carrier information has been updated, and that's a message I've never seen before, but apparently some of you have seen it out there. So I don't think it's affected my phone faster or slower or anything like that. So what do you think? Are you a Sprint user? Are you happy with your coverage? Let me know. Twitter me at Geekazine, of course, geekazine@gmail.com. All right, we got one more article here in part 1, then we'll get you into part 2 here. Google is planned to wipe child porn from the web. And for that, I say, hey! Of course, Search Giant is putting together a database of different websites of different areas that have been known for child porn issues. And of course, they're working with law enforcement and other charities to try and curb child pornography. Regular pornography, okay. Child pornography, not okay, of course. So that's pretty cool. I can't wait to we'll see what happens here and how they're making the initiative to make sure that child porn doesn't happen on the internet, because there's a lot of questionable content out there. Is that person 14? Is that person 18? In fact, a couple years ago, I wrote a couple articles on, people that look like they're 14, 15 years old. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see how that comes out. In the meantime, feel free to read the article over at cnet.com. We'll have the link in the show notes. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, all you have to do is Twitter me over at Geekazine, and then geekazine@gmail.com with the hotline number of 608-205-4378. All right, we will get into part 2 of Geek Smack, and we'll be right back right after this. All right, part 2 is brought to you by my other website, The Day in Tech History, over at www.dayintechhistory.com. Got a lot of great tech history news, including today, which I completely forgot what happened today. We've got some great news here. Let me look it up really quick. I can't believe I'm just completely spacing on what happened today in the Day in Tech History. I'm usually on top of it's today's Tuesday. It's Phi Day, where you have pi. It's Phi. And then, of course, it was from Apple, and this is Tuesday, the 18th. John Scully of Apple steps down, and Michael Spindler takes over duties at Apple. And that's what happened on this day in tech history. You can check it all out over at www.dayintechhistory.com. Podcast that's been running for 365 days since August 9th of 2009. We're going to be celebrating the 1500th episode coming up in September. So check it out. Put it into your iTunes. Put it into your whatever podcatcher you have. That's Day in Tech History. All right. Let's get back into the news here. We're going to go over to CNBC.com, talking about Charter Communications creating acquisitions or working with acquisitions, and the possibility that they could be working out a deal with Time Warner. Now, what does that mean? We talked about Time Warner and their possible throttling from the first section. But if Charter is making a bid for Time Warner, that means that Charter really wants to get more piece of the pie. They have one of their shareholders is Liberty Media, and I guess they're pushing them on acquisition targets, try and get into new locations. But if Charter was to buy Time Warner, would that be good for Charter? Would that be bad for Time? Well, be good for Time Warner because they're pretty much out of the market there. But what do you think? Would you want your Time Warner cable get switched to Charter? I'm a Charter customer, and it's you still pay the same prices as you probably do with Time Warner or Cox or Comcast or anything like that. The internet, I get a decent internet. It's not super fast, but it does the job. So I can do something like a live stream. So what do you think? Do you think you get an upgrade on that? Let me know. Twitter me over at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. And the article is over at CNBC. Once again, we'll have that in the show notes. All right. Moving over to a new website. This is called Quartz. And this is actually a very interesting story. This is about a man who created a Kickstarter for a board game. And he just wanted to make like a few $1,000s. And these board games that he did, he's from Cambridge, Massachusetts. These board games that he did, he just wants to make them by hand, nothing fancy. He's not going into the delivery business, but he just wants to have a good game. Well, apparently the $21,000 goal jumped to $73,000. And next thing you know, he was pretty much put into a pressure. Now, he also worked at, I believe it was Staples, or let me see. He was working at Staples, yeah, and Staples made cuts, and he lost his job. So basically, he then, with the job, he brought a bunch of problems. He wasn't able to make his mortgage, and with this board game thing, it just kind of toppled on top of it. So he basically lost his house over that. Now, and some of this, I'm wondering if he didn't run the Kickstarter, if this would have still done this. And if he was a real entrepreneur, wouldn't he be able to take this board game and actually do something with it? I mean, if he went over on his Kickstarter, was it 3 times the price of the Kickstarter? Can't you take something and actually monetize that? I don't know. It's an interesting story, and as an entrepreneur myself, I could see where you could actually take this to the next level, unless you don't want to. Maybe that's his thing. He doesn't want to take it to the next level and go from there. But interesting read nonetheless. Check it out. It's over at QZ.com. New website that I've never been to before. So if you see any problems, let me know, and we'll change it up. All right, really quick, Wi-Fi. Facebook is I guess, creating some markets for Wi-Fi. I guess they're going to some coffee shops and saying, hey, we'll put in equipment for the Wi-Fi. But to use the Wi-Fi, you'll have to answer some privacy concerns and privacy issues. And of course, they're going to collect some data. So a lot of people are complaining about it. Of course, I don't think there's any place here in Madison that does something like that. I would guess down the road, that would come in once they have a person here making the sales, people getting emails. I can think of 3 or 4 coffee shops that could really use that type of upgrade, and I would probably visit them. Collecting my data, if you know what you're doing, you can collect a lot of data from me, no matter what, and everybody else for that matter. As much as the unsecured, unencrypted stuff goes through the internet, web pages that we search, the emails that we send, a lot of that's unencrypted. So, it passes through the air. You can intercept that and collect that data. So, and Facebook collects so much data as it is already from me. I'm online 95% of the time. So for me, not as much of an issue. But for a lot of people that do have concerns and the security clearances, they need to be a little bit careful about that. So interesting read. If you want to know more, check it out over at wired.com. And then let me know what you think. Do you think that this Facebook Wi-Fi idea, will that keep you away from a coffee shop, or will you not be concerned on that? Let me know by Twittering me over at Geekazine. All right, speaking of which, I must have put in a different article. We'll talk about that in the one I was going to talk about in a second. But AT&T there's an article over on iClarified.com that basically says that AT&T has the fastest LTE network. True. If you're in a city, that is. They say that in some of the major cities, AT&T is the fastest of the network. However, Verizon is still overall nationwide coverage and some of the best coverage and best customer support off of that. So if you live in Boston, if you live in New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, Atlanta, of course they have a whole chart here on iClarified.com. They show you the Sprint, they show you AT&T, and they show you T-Mobile, and they show you Verizon. So it does show if you live in a major city, you have good coverage. Get out of the city, not so much. So something to think about when you're going to buy your next phone. Let me know what you think, if you think that that's, this is just a fluff, or if you're just going to go with Verizon, or if you're going to stick with AT&T. I've had AT&T for over 15 years, and should I switch? I don't know. It's worked for me. There's always dead spots for no matter where you go, whatever carrier you have. So it has gotten better in the last year. I don't know. Check it out, and then let me know. Twitter me at Geekazine or geekazine@gmail.com. All right, let's move over. Walmart is, we'll just do that. Walmart is introducing Chromebooks into their stores. This is over on designandtrend.com. The Acer Chromebook is going to be they're going to start selling that. It's a 16 gigabyte model laptop, and it's going to start on June 20th. So if you want to check that out, go over to designtrend.com. The article I was referring to in the Facebook Wi-Fi, if you do come across a coffee shop that you're not 100% sure on, and you want to have a little bit of anonymity, check this out. This is over on Boing Boing. It's called the Onion Pie. Onion Raspberry Pi, or whatever. And basically what it is the Raspberry Pi refixed, and this is a do-it-yourself thing, where you can actually use this as a buffer so they don't get as much information as they want to get. So basically what happens is you connect this device to the Wi-Fi in the coffee shop, and then it USB connects into your laptop in where the data, encrypts. I don't know, I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. It says you can browse anonymously anywhere you go with the Onion Pi Tor proxy. This is a fun weekend project with Raspberry Pi. You need a USB Wi-Fi adapter. It's like, I went to the website, it's like $100, and you have all the product to put this together. So if you're a little bit concerned about a coffee shop or something like that, maybe doing something like having somebody scan the Wi-Fi on there and try and pull data from your browsing history, then check this out over at boingboing.net and put this together. And tell me if you do put it together. Let me know how it goes. Send me some pictures. Geekazine is the Twitter handle. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. All right, moving on from there, we're going over to gizmodo.com. Here's another, this is kind of like the spy thing. Let's say you have a card, like a camera card or an SD card, and you want to hide it. You don't want to take it out of the camera and hide it. Well, hide it into a nickel or a dime or something like that. Gizmodo is talking about these stash coins that open up to uncover a SD card or something smaller than the coin itself that you can put in there. Now, the coins are reconstituted coins, and so they were actually coins at one time. So they look and feel like a coin, but they open up. And I'm not sure, is it a magnetic opening? So, but it's part of their spy gear, as they call it. So you can actually put that in, but don't put that coin into like a parking meter. It'll work. And you might want to check all your coins, kind of like hit them on a table. I was watching American Pickers last night, and they said something very interesting. Frank was going to buy these old cash registers, and they came up with the interesting fact that a lot of counters used marble counters in stores, and the reason why was so they could tap the coins on the counters and to tell if they were real or fake, because there was a lot of fake coins made back in the 1900s. So you might need that counter again for some coin like this, because then you tap it and all of a sudden it opens up. It's like, hey, there's an SD card. Now, if you do have an SD card, don't just put it in your computer. Just don't do it. Maybe put it in your camera, but there could still be some malware in there that could just completely take off, and then next thing you know, you're infecting your computer and other computers. So if you do get an SD card, play it safe. If anything, just wipe it with a device that you don't normally hook up to the internet, or if you want to be really risky, unplug your computer from the internet and check it out, and then do a full scan of your computer afterwards. Anyway, that's over at Gizmodo.com. Check that out. A couple more articles here, and then we'll get into the main subject about iOS and be looking more like Android. Netflix is gearing up with DreamWorks to bring more kids shows to their stream. If you want to read more on that, go over to allthingsd.com. And then finally, over on The Verge, apparently they're sending an animated GIF up into space, which makes sense. I figured, maybe do something like Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, where we just have a whole bunch of events in an animated GIF and send it off into space. Some alien life form is going to look at that and go, "Oh, okay, this is history of the world that they call Earth." So, but that's not what they're sending up. What they're sending up is this picture right here. It's a guy looking at the internet and scratching his ear. They're calling that humans looking at digital art. And they're going to send that up. They're sending it up either today or tomorrow up into space. And so that's what we're going to show. We're going to show other intelligent life. This is how we work. How crazy is that? Anyway, what do you think? Do you think that that's a good GIF to send up? Do you have a better GIF that you want to send up? Let me know. Twitter me the GIF, and we'll show you some GIFs maybe next week or in 2 weeks when I come back. Geekazine is a Twitter handle. Geekazine@gmail.com or 608-205-4378. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about iOS getting a facelift to iOS 7. But a lot of people are saying it looks way too much like Android. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the history of things like that, and we will do that. We'll be right back. With over 700 channels to choose from, the Roku should be part of your entertainment center, and the price is great. You got channels from Amazon to Netflix to Hulu Plus, and of course you can add to your pay channels like HBO Go. You also have Disney for the kids. You have tons of ways to entertain people. Not only movies, but you can also have great games, such as Pac-Man, such as Galaga, and of course Angry Birds. And that's all through the Roku Entertainment System. Now let me show you one channel that's in particular near and dear to my heart, and that's over here, the techpodcast.com channel. If you go to the techpodcast.com channel, you go into the video and you go into tech news, you will find not only iPad 365, but Geekazine's special media feed, and then of course the show Geek Smack, all on your Roku right there. So check it out. Prices start at $50 to no more than $100 for all this great entertainment. Do that by going over to geekazine.com/Roku. That's geekazine.com/Roku. Get yourself a Roku player and start watching movies, start watching content, and start playing Angry Birds over at geekazine.com/Roku. Last week at WWDC, Apple released the new version of iOS and iOS 7. Tim Cook said it was the biggest change since the iPhone was released. Yet many people mocked Apple, saying that iOS 7 now looks more like an Android phone. I put out an image, which I'll show you right here, that basically kind of mocked the statement. It really put everyone to blame. After all, Apple made a great point that the most used Android operating system version was developed in 2010 at about 33%. I talked with Luke Wallace about this the night before during our Twig show, and he mentioned that Google does all it can to support all models while the developers can still easily support the older OS. This is not the first time a company was accused of stealing from form and function. Ironically, back in the original desktop wars, Apple accused Microsoft of stealing the original GUI for their use in Windows 3.1. Of course, GUI being graphical user interface. Apple took Microsoft to court because Windows GUI seemed to be heavily influenced by their Lisa OS, but then it was further complicated when Xerox came in and sued Apple for the same claims to Xerox graphical user interface. Now we move 10 years ahead. Mobile devices are the new computer, and we have the same problems. Are these problems where Google could sue Apple for a similar look and feel? We definitely want to protect intellectual property, but in some accusations, it just feels like they're trolling and hope to win so others can't use things like slide lock or the way icons are displayed on the screen or anything like that. It's like if the city of Houston was to sue the city of Kansas because the sky and cloud coverage looked similar to each other. Let's hope we don't have an issue like that with iOS 7 and Android. Lawsuits, while sometimes necessary, only hold back innovation and raise costs for mobile device to the consumers. Do you agree on that? Do you think that iOS 7 looks too much like Android? Do you think that Google might have a case on this? Let me know. Twitter me over at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. And then the hotline is 608-205-4378. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, thanks a lot for watching. This is this episode of Geek Smack. You can check out everything over at Geekazine. Of course, iPad 365, This Week in Google Glass, and of course, The Day in Tech History, all shows that I do online for you. YouTube.com/Geekazine if you want to check out the live show. Once again, we will not have a show next week, but in 2 weeks, we will be back with another live show and some more Geek Smack. And until then, you guys take care. Check me out. Go over to Geekazine, say hi, and subscribe over at YouTube. Until then, like I said, geek out and take